And I do think that this matchup favors Tom Ross, but just to compare Green-White Tron to a deck like Scapeshift, both decks are getting a bunch of mana and overpowering the Jund deck, but Scapeshift just wins the game, whereas Green-White Tron, it just plays some big things that are hard to deal with, but can be dealt with. And that's the defining factor between the Tron versus Jund matchup and the Scapeshift versus Jund matchup.
All right, well, Andrew is going to be on the play. Looks like he was on a mulligan to 6, and he's just going to lead off on a Bloodstained Mire. Tom has basically the start that you never want to see from a Tron deck. Tron piece plus Expedition map.
Yeah, this is the start where you're almost guaranteed to be facing some sort of, big...
A Karn on 3, basically.
Yeah, exactly. This is where you're like, oh god, don't do this to me.
So if Andrew did not have a discard spell on turn 1, he's hoping to draw one here. Preferably a Thoughtseize.
And a lot of times with a card like Thoughtseize, playing it on turn 1 is good if that's the best way to use your mana. But if you're worried about a turn 3 Karn specifically, the best time to cast Thoughtseize is right before that Karn would be able to be played. So if Andrew really wants to tag a Karn out of Tom's hand, this turn is actually the best turn to cast the Thoughtseize.
Well, Andrew is just going to play a Blooming Marsh and land a Scavenging Ooze. Tom Ross is just going to play an Urza's Mine along with his Power Plant and Expedition map and pass the turn back. Let's see what Andrew has going on here on his turn 3.
And in game 1, Karn minusing puts it at 3 loyalty, I believe. So that's going to make Andrew's Lightning Bolts a little bit more live for that 1 turn window before Karn's able to plus again. Notably, Liliana the Veil wouldn't be a particularly bad play here either. Nice.
All right. Looks like we're going to get a Liliana from Andrew.
I dig it.
He's going to plus.
And if Tom is able to drop a Karn and Andrew doesn't have a Lightning Bolt, things can look pretty bad for Andrew. But if Tom just has something like a Wormcoil Engine, that's actually something that Andrew can potentially slog through.
Ooh, well, there is a Lightning Bolt that he's going to discard.
It's a Black Border Lightning Bolt, though. That's looking like a good one. So if Andrew is discarding the Lightning Bolt, that makes me think he has a plan for not only a potential Karn, but also a potential Wormcoil Engine.
All right, so Tom is going to go find an Urza's Tower with his Expedition map. Just picked up a copy of Path to Exile.
And this is a matchup where Path to Exile isn't quite as good. Against, if you're playing Green-Red Tron, Pyroclasm plus Relic of Progenitus can end up doing a lot of good work, even when there's things like Tarmogoyf on the board. But Path to Exile is not going to be quite as good.
All right, well, Karn is going to take care of that Liliana the Veil. Andrew did pick up a copy of Seal of Fire, though. So Seal of Fire plus Scavenging Ooze is going to take care of Karn, and then Tarmogoyf getting added to the battlefield. It's going to be pretty big, considering there's an artifact, a land, an enchantment, an instant, a planeswalker.
Yeah, it's missing, I believe, creature and sorcery to become the, monstrous 7/8.
Full-on 7/8.
But that is still pretty good.
All right, so Tom just has a Chromatic Sphere and a Wormcoil Engine to follow up. And Wormcoil's looking real good right now.
Wormcoil is looking good, but it is something that Andrew can beat. Currently, Tom probably doesn't want to race this Wormcoil.
That's a
wow.
good top deck.
All right, just ignore everything I said before. Tom has got this in the bag.
All right, well, Andrew did have a Grim Flare to add to his board, but Tom found a copy of Ugin the Spirit Dragon on top. Comes down, it's going to -2 and clear Andrew's board. Wormcoil Engine will attack for 6, putting Tom up to 24 and drop Andrew down to 10. Andrew does have a Scavenging Ooze that he can use here, but Ugin Plus can take care of it. Wormcoil Engine's going to attack in. And Tom even has a World Breaker that he can use to get rid of one of Andrew's lands, considering he's missing land drops.
Yeah, and Tom's got everything here. Tom basically had the perfect draw where he hit Tron and one source of green mana in addition to that, and then it's just been all gas.
Well, Andrew's going to scoop it up in the face of these big, giant mana monsters. Tom Ross is going to take game 1 with green-white Tron against Jund. Let's take a look at these players' sideboards and see if we can figure out what their plan of action is going to be. On Tom's side, he has 3 Blessed Alliance, 3 Nature's Claim, 3 Warping Wail, 2 Rest in Peace, 2 Thragtusk, 1 Ravenous Trap, and 1 Ghost Quarter. How do we think Tom's going to sideboard?
So I like the Rest in Peace as a way to hose Tarmogoyf as well as Grim Flayer. Thragtusk is also going to prove to be quite useful, as it's just like a really good mid-range body. And then he could consider bringing in a small number of Warping Wails. They can be good against cards like Maelstrom Pulse, and they can also tag Dark Confidant. Although the Warping, like the Thragtusks are in for sure, Warping Wails and Rest in Peace are kind of like up to Tom's discretion.
Now on Andrew's side, we have 2 Ancient Grudge, 2 Kitchen Finks, 2 Fulminator Mage, a Damnation, a Chandra Pyromaster, 1 Engineered Explosives, an Olivia Voldaren, a Jund Charm, a Thragtusk, a Golgari Charm, an Obstinate Baloth, and a Grafdigger's Cage. What would you do here in Andrew's spot?
So I like bringing in Ancient Grudge. It's a lot like Terminate, but just slightly better. Fulminator Mage is going to be coming in for sure. And I also like just bringing in more mid-rangey elements like Chandra Pyromaster, Olivia Voldaren, potentially even the Thragtusk, and Golgari Charm is something that might have some utility against some of Tom's sweepers, although not all of them. I think for the Jund player, he wants to have as much disruption as possible, but also be able to absorb some of the 2 and 3-for-1s that Tom presents in the form of Wormcoil Engine.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, both of these players, I assume Andrew plays a lot of Magic, but I know that Tom does.
He's got the black bordered lightning bolt, so probably.
Fair enough. Now, Tom is in Roanoke, and one of the things that he likes to participate in when he's in town is SCG Game Night, and you too can have this in your local game store. So if you want to get some sweet swag and battle some Magic, let your local game store know to go to go.starcitygames.com/game night so they can get signed up to host this in their store. Every week in November, you can get the exclusive Mole Warden tokens and pins. It's a nice little parody off of Soul Warden. Every week in December, you can get Fin Tuition tokens and pins, which is pretty cool. And then in January, you can get Squeaky Cheeky Acorn Breaker tokens and pins, which is also pretty sweet. The art on that is actually really cool.
Yeah, I like it a lot. And this kind of stuff, I also like it too because, you know, it's hard to make it to every single open, but if you get your local game store involved with this, you still get to basically participate in just some good Star City Games culture.
So make sure you let your local game store know, go.starcitygames.com/game night so they can get signed up for those kits.
And so I think for this game, Andrew's going to have a chance to be on the play. And what he really wants to do is line up a Thoughtseize with some of that pressure. We saw that he was able to basically handle the first 2 big plays that Tom made, but the 3rd and 4th play that Tom made in rapid succession really put the game out of reach. And Andrew really needs to rely on cards like Thoughtseize to tag some of their Ugins so that they never get cast.
Yeah, I've played a little bit of the Tron versus Jund from the Tron side, and it just never feels good to get your big stuff Thoughtseize in the first couple of turns. All right, here we have a Blood Crypt for Andrew. Tom has an Urza's Tower and a Chromatic Star. An 0-1 Tarmogoyf for Andrew is going to come down. And Tom is just going to play a Power Plant, sacrifice his star, cast Sylvan Scrying, go get a mine. We are online. He will have Tron starting next turn.
Yeah, and this is where Andrew really wants to fire off a Thoughtseize.
Or a
Fulminator. That's good too.
Which is going to take care of his tower.
And Tom looks like he was shortcutting there a little bit and might have given away some unneeded information.
Well, it looks like he has actually another tower in his hand.
Got it all.
So there's a Chromatic Star. That Tarmogoyf is a 4/5 though, so he was able to knock Tom down to 16.
Yeah, still pretty important. And we'll see what Andrew is able to follow up with here. Again, a Thoughtseize would be great. but I would even settle for something like, you know, a Kolaghan's Command, making Tom discard a card and getting the Fulminator back, or a Liliana of the Veil. But I definitely want to see, you know, something more than just another body.
All right, well, Andrew is going to attack Tom for 4 down to 12. He'll use his Verdant Catacombs, fall to 17, and go get a basic forest.
The one nice thing about playing just another body here, though, is that if Tom's next play is Karn, Karn's going to be able to exile one creature, but Andrew's going to have another one that's going to be able to attack the Karn, making Karn just a 1-for-1 that gains some life. Which is, you know, good for Tom, but not great.
So it looks like Andrew may have split a sleeve, and we're going to replace it.
Another thing that would be really good for Andrew here is just to deploy 2 threats. Like, imagine he had a Grim Flayer and another Tarmogoyf, or a Grim Flayer and a Dark Confidant. 2/2 drops would be quite nice as well.
Or 2 more Tarmogoyfs.
Yeah, that would be great.
And Tom is 1 mana off of being able to play an Ugin that he has.
Wow, 2 more Tarmogoyfs. So now this is lethal on board. So what's Tom going to have?
Well, if he has Tron plus Karn or Wormcoil here, and Karn, and then he can follow up with Ugin next turn.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, Karn is going to take care of a Tarmogoyf.
And Andrew would love to have another Fulminator Mage here.
Or a Raging Ravine, even.
Oh, Raging Ravine would be such gas.
He just has a Blackleaf Cliffs. He's going to...
Oh, and he's got the Fulminator.
Which one does he hit? Tom has some...
I think I would hit the tower.
Tom has everything but tower in hand. Oh, and he hits the mine.
So I think the reason he hit mine...
Oh, this will still keep Tom off of Ugin mana, though.
Yeah. So normally I like to repeatedly target the same land over and over again, preferably a tower because it produces 3. But this is going to work out all right for Andrew either way, but it's getting close.
Yeah, so he's able to cycle his Chromatic Star to get white, path to exile that Tarmogoyf. Andrew's still going to be able to attack him down to 4 here.
Yeah, attacking him down to 2 or 3 would be much better with cards like Lightning Bolt and Kolaghan's Command. 4 is still a fine life total for Tom Ross.
Oh, actually, it's like it's going to be for 6.
Oh, geez. Oh, that's huge.
So that's going to knock Tom down to 2. Just what you asked for.
Just what I asked for, yep. So this would also mean that a card like Chandra Pyromaster could be a little bit of a problem. You know, pinging him twice for 1.
All right, well, there's the Kalitas. Looks like he has Blessed Alliance, so he does have some ways to gain some life.
Doesn't have white mana currently.
He does not.
Although it looks like this is going to be a turn for Ugin. And Ugin's pretty difficult to beat.
All right, so Ugin's going to come down in -4, take care of the Tarmogoyf and the Kalitas.
So we'll see what Andrew has.
Do you think he left in his Lightning Bolts?
I have my deck set up in a way where I can take all of them out. So it just depends on what Andrew has to, you know, like how exactly his post-board configuration is set up. It's good to keep in like 1 or 2 lightning bolts because you can kill a Karn that just killed a creature. You can kill half of a Wormcoil engine, and sometimes you can, you know, finish your opponent off.
Well, Liliana is going to plus here.
And one of Andrew's best top decks here is probably Raging Ravine.
Yeah.
Raging Ravine is able to dodge the Ugin. And Tom still doesn't have white mana for that Blessed Alliance. If Tom gets white mana online, then I think Andrew's going to be pretty close to drawing dead. But until that happens, Andrew has some good top decks.
All right, Tom is going to plus his Ugin, deal 3 damage to Liliana. Andrew will play a land for his turn, plus Liliana again. Tom will discard a Tron piece.
And this Liliana was something that could do a little bit of work in stressing out this this Ugin, but Andrew just drew 2 lands, so a little unfortunate for him. Ooh, and there's the white mana, so this is big.
Yeah, that's going to allow him to gain 4 life next turn, and have a way to interact with like a Raging Ravine if Andrew happens to draw one.
Yeah, this is looking pretty grim for Andrew. It's hard to have enough sideboard space for every deck that you face. I know in Jund, I usually prefer to have either 3 or 4 Fulminator Mages, because this matchup is quite the scary one.
Right, Andrew is going to use a Bloodstained Mire, fall down to 16 on Tom's end step. Let's see what he's drawn for the turn. Chandra Pyromaster.
So while that's going to do some good, it's probably just going to get answered by this Ugin, but...
Well, he's going to 0 instead of plus.
Well, I think putting Tom to 1 isn't really any different than putting him to 2, and the Chandra is likely to die to the Ugin no matter what. So I think just zeroing it and trying to hit a Raging Ravine is a pretty good idea.
Mm-hmm.
He may also be drawing to things like Kolaghan's Command, or Seal of Fire, or Lightning Bolt.
Well, there was a Blessed Alliance is going to gain 4 life for Tom, put him up to 6. He found a second copy of it after he minused his Ugin to take care of the Chandra from Andrew.
And since he had to, I really like just firing one off. It means that Andrew's not going to be able to Lightning Bolt Tom in response to him firing off the first one. And because he was bottlenecked on white mana anyway, you know, it's just good mana efficiency.
All right, Tom just has another Razorverge Thicket and then passing the turn back to Andrew. Andrew has a Dark Confidant, but that is likely just going to die to an Ugin plus.
Yeah, and sometimes against planeswalkers like Ugin that can kill creatures, it's better to stock up a couple different creatures in your hand so you can play them all at once and make it so that they can't, your opponent doesn't have enough time to kill all of them. But because Ugin can just minus and wipe a bunch of stuff, Andrew's probably better off just, you know, playing them out.
Yeah, Ugin is just real tough to beat.
Yeah, it really is.
I remember that card was in Standard. Ooh, it was a tough to beat.
Mm-hmm.
All right, there's the Tireless Tracker. And a Liliana.
So, this is a little interesting. I would have liked saving the Tracker until
He had a land.
he had a land to play with it, because here Tom can just pretty easily -3 his Ugin and just get the clean 2-for-1.
All right, and here's an Oblivion Stone, which on Andrew's end step he can put a Fate counter on his Ugin.
Yep.
So that it lives through an own stone activation. All right, Maelstrom Pulse is going to take care of Ugin. Bad news, I got another one in my hand.
Yep.
He's going to put a Fate counter on his own Oblivion Stone. Here's another Ugin plus.
Deja vu.
All over again.
Yep. So, I think Andrew could have done...
And Tom actually has. He had a Ghost Quarter, just got a second Ghost Quarter.
Yeah, so
to
now
have
even
protection
Raging
against
Ravine.
Raging Ravine.
Yeah, so this game is likely locked up. Andrew and Tom are just going through the motions. Look at all the dice on that Ugin.
Yeah. Do you ultimate next turn, or do you just plus it again?
I would probably just plus it again. You've got basically everything locked up. The green-white Tron deck, it doesn't have a ton of win conditions. So...
Okay, so he gets to draw 7 and then put 7 permanents onto the battlefield.
And gain 7 life. So he doesn't get the cast trigger off of the Ulamog, but who cares?
7. We had just enough.
And talk about a landslide victory for Tom Ross.
Yeah. All right, there's an Ancient Stirrings. Let's see what else we can find. Oh, and a Wormcoil Engine.
And once again, we see Tom just kind of playing with his food.
Here we have a World Fire coming from Andrew, just going to reset everything. We got to terminate.
What do you terminate here?
Yeah, he just changes his mind. Dark Confidant. All right, we got a blocker.
Got a blocker, check.
Pass the turn. End step, a fate counter on the Ugin.
And we are watching a man slowly bleed to death.
All right, attack with everything. Trigger. Is he going to resolve the trigger?
Man, you gotta admire this. Andrew's just going through all the motion.
Just going to give all the information. They might play again in the top 8. Oh, I guess they'll have deck list by then.
Imagine Andrew just has I don't know, like what could even do anything here, like a deflecting palm or something.
All right, trigger resolves.
Okay, trigger resolves.
I'll terminate the Thragtusk. All right, I'll get a beast.
Does he have something for the Wormcoil Engine?
Ancient Grudge, the
And
Wormcoil
he's got something,
Engine.
so he's not. Oh wait,
Yeah, he's still taking
he's still
10.
dead. For a second, I thought I was like, did he buy another turn? Is there anything that he can do? But just going through the motions. Came here to play Magic.
Oh yeah.
Wanted to play all of his cards. I certainly appreciate the fighting spirit. You know.
Yep. Tom Ross is going to take that match.